Now, from 1988 to 1993, not too much happened with the improvised pop sound. In fact, it wasn't called improvised pop yet, but soon it would be. In 1993, I shared a house with Tommy Moodsetter in Long Beach, New York, and this proved to be a defining moment for improvised pop. How did it happen? Well, we rented a house for the winter from this guy named Frank. And Frank, what he did was, he asked us at some point if we would like to use his VCR. He had an old Panasonic top-loading VCR. We said, sure, why not? Leave it out, let us use it. That's great. Well, this was to be one of those decisions you make in life where you don't realize what you're doing yet, but it turns out to be very important. Why was it important? Well, it turns out that this VCR would prove to be instrumental in the improvised pop movement. One day, I was walking down Stony Beach, West Beach Street, which was the main drag. I looked down on the ground by the curb, and there's all these VHS tapes on the curb in these boxes. So I go over, take a look, and take one of them. I figure, well, they're on the street, they're up for grabs, you know. I took it home. It turned out to be Joe Franklin Presents Daughter of the Dragon. I had no idea what that was. But I showed it to Tom, and what I did was, in the coming days, I had this idea to take the video, put the video in Frank's VCR. No output go into Tom's VCR. He had a stereo VCR, which was very important at that time for the development of improvised pop. How? Well, I had the idea that I would take one of the improvisations that Tom, myself, and Jim had done and use that as the audio soundtrack for this movie, Daughter of the Dragon. And I just segged it up randomly. When we looked at it, I was amazed by the fact that it actually seemed to go with the movie, even though it was segged up totally randomly and the music was created totally independently of this video. So we got the idea from there. What about if we actually played improvisation music to one of these videos? We actually did it live. Well, we did. We tried it. We used an old reel-to-reel tape recorder that I had gotten at a garage sale in Long Beach as our mixing board. We didn't have a mixing board yet. So we plugged in to the reel-to-reel tape recorder using the 1/4-inch inputs. And we used that, and then from the back of this reel-to-reel, we were able to go into Tom's VCR. That's the audio. Tom and I played improvised music, and we watched the video come in, and then we had a finished product of the old video plus our new soundtrack. And this went on for about a month or so. We were pretty happy with the results. And eventually what happened was, one day I was in Sam Ash, and I ran into this guy who used to play with Ken in the Bloodless Pharaohs, Ken Canelli. Now Ken was in the Hal Greer group that I mentioned earlier. I said to this guy, I said, you know, do you have Ken's number? I just moved to Long Beach, I hear he's living over there. And he said, sure. He gave me his phone number. I called up Ken, and he came over. Hadn't seen him in a long time. He came over. He saw what we were doing with the improvised music and the video, and he liked it. So he joined us on keyboard. So we had 2 keyboard players and a guitarist improvising new soundtracks, new improvised to these old movies. The movies turned out to be, which we didn't know at the time, mostly in the public domain. what I would do is I would go into the city, 5th Avenue and 21st Street. There was a closeout store there, and they had videos for like $1 and $2. Pick up a bunch of them and bring them home, and then we would use those to improvise to. Movies like The Terror, The Big Trees, Second Chorus, things like that. Now, Ken joined us in October of 1993. New Year's Eve, 1993. We had a little get-together with a couple of people, and we did some improvised music to a couple of different movies, including The Terror. Terror is a Roger Corman film, and it's got Jack Nicholson in it and Boris Karloff. Well, with this particular session, we had a live microphone, and we were improvising 2 keyboards and a guitar, and then Ken starts to sing. Not lyrics, vocal improvisation type stuff. This was the beginning, for real, of the improvised pop movement. Live vocals, live improvised vocals over live improvised music. And we were doing it to these old public domain movies. Now just to backtrack a little bit, how did we get to that point? Well, there was one step in between. We had never done a full-length movie before. We came close with this movie called Gorgo, which was a British Zilla. Well, Gorgo, we almost finished all the way through, but the tape on the reel-to-reel ran out a little before the end of the movie. When we watched back Gorgo, our improvisation, myself, Tom, and Ken, we thought, what about putting some vocals, overdubbing some vocals on this piece? We improvised some vocals over it, and most of it was so-so, but there were a couple of good vocal pieces that came out of it. The next step was New Year's Eve 1993, when we did it with live vocals. Now going into 1994, a bass player, Kenny Moodsetter, was called the Moodsetters. Kenny Moodsetter on bass, Tommy Moodsetter on guitar, Ken Canale on keyboards and vocal, and myself on keyboards and percussion.